You have to be flexible. As a small business, you really have to be flexible. You have to understand what you're doing today might not be what you're doing tomorrow.
Right.
It changes.
Welcome to the Machine Shop Mastery Podcast, where we uncover the stories behind successful machine shops and their owners. By interviewing current and former shop owners, we dig deep to unveil their secrets of success and the struggles and challenges they've overcome on their paths to building thriving shops. We aim to elevate how important the machining industry is and inspire others by highlighting why owning a shop can be a great vehicle to creating jobs, stimulating the economy, and creating wealth. Here's our host, former machine shop owner himself, Paul Van Meter.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of Machine Shop Mastery. Today, I think I had one of the sweetest conversations I've had maybe ever with Bonnie and Ken Kuhn from Kuhn Tool. They are in Northwest Pennsylvania, and Bonnie and Ken I've gotten to know quite well through the NTMA over many years and many meetings, and their business was started by Ken's parents in the early 60s, so going on 6 decades now. First of all, this is sweet because, here's a couple, partners in the business working side by side for years. I know not every couple could do that, being business partners together, but clearly these two do it well. Their strengths complement each other, and they built a very nice business and grown it, for many years. Their sons are now working in the business. We talk about the importance of, having a resilient business that's flexible. They've seen big ups and downs over many decades, obviously from, back in the 60s and 70s when manufacturing was really strong in the US, to the whole period where it was outsourced. And then now things are, coming back again, reshoring and things of that nature. So there's some great stories that they tell about how they persevered through things, how they got creative. Bonnie pulling down the Thomas Register and literally just cold calling people and finding customers. And so I love that story. I love Ken's comment about trying to find one positive thing every single day that he's very intentional about. That's a nice, again, sweet moment. The way they treat their employees. Bonnie's COVID story is just a little bit tear-jerking. And so it's just a great conversation. I will mention that I think there was some periods where, as I listened back to the recording a little bit, there were some periods where something was going on with their microphone. So there's a few periods of a few seconds where it's a little muffled and a little hard to hear what they say, but the vast majority of the interview was just great, and I know you're going to enjoy this one. So without further ado, let's go and talk with Bonnie and Ken. Welcome to the podcast. I'm so glad to have you both here.
Thank you very much.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So we have got to know each other, I think, reasonably well over the last several years through NTMA, which is a wonderful organization. I'm sure we'll talk more about it, but you guys have been a part of that for quite a long time. You have a great business that I think your sons are now working in and going to be taking the torch at some point here. But let's start by just having you guys share a little bit of the backstory of how you started this business or got into the business and what the business specializes in and what it kind of looks like today.
Well, Kuhn Tool was started initially by my father and my mother back in 1963. I came into the business in the early 1970s and have been here ever since.
Okay.
We specialize in custom gauging and fixturing, mostly for airfoil blades and vanes for aviation or land-based applications. But we basically we're a job shop. We machine to our specs from our own designs or from a customer specs. Very low quantities, very high mix of high precision work. We do a lot of 5-axis work. We have surface grinding, jig grinding, wire EDM. Pretty much try to be a full service, one-stop job shop.
And for me, I started here in January 2nd of 1991. And I was supposed to be part-time to begin with, and that lasted for about 2 weeks. And then I went full time. And the only thing that I would add is that we also have CNC router service where we offer CNCing of different materials, whether it be wood or acrylic or just various odds and ends. And we also have 5-axis water jetting.
In manufacturing, growth isn't accidental, it's engineered. But a lot of suppliers are still building their pipeline on outdated lists, inconsistent follow-up, and hope-based marketing, hoping their website will somehow bring in leads. Gabe Draper, the founder of Factur, knows that struggle. Years ago, he ran a shop that went bankrupt, not because of quality, but because he didn't have a steady way to generate new opportunities. That experience is what led him to build Factur. Factur helps suppliers create consistent sales opportunities by combining targeted outreach with marketing that puts you in front of the right buyers. Their team finds the right companies, starts real conversations, and sets qualified meetings. So if your pipeline swings with referrals or seasonality, Factur brings a system that puts you back in control. And for listeners of this show, Factur is offering a free custom report that highlights the best opportunities in your industry, plus a list of real companies that match what you do. Request yours at facturmfg.com/chips. That's FACTURMFG.com/chips. Oh, 5X's? No, nice. Okay. That's a pretty broad offering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how many folks do you employ today?
We have 24 employees.
Very nice. And where are you located?
We are located at in Meadville, Pennsylvania. And let's see, 10 years ago, we moved from a 10,000 square foot building to this facility that we're currently in, which is 41,615 feet.
That's a very precise number.
Yeah, thank you. He laughs at me all the time.
Let's get the number to the square foot. So it allowed us for a lot of expansion when we moved up here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Meadville is in which quadrant of Pennsylvania?
We are in the northwest corner of PA. We're like 30 miles south of Lake Erie and 30 miles east of Ohio, 90 miles north of Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Is that the same NTMA chapter as Andy Reinwald?
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, Northwest
awesome.
Pennsylvania chapter. Yeah, great area.
Yeah. I know he's always sharing pictures of in his truck driving down to meetings and whatever podcast he's listening to. So I know he will be listening to this one. He is.
And he's pretty dynamic.
Pretty special guy. Yeah, absolutely. I saw him just last week out in North Carolina. So he's always learning, always studying, always making his grandfather proud.
Mm-hmm.
So
good man.
Yeah. You have 2 boys in the business. Do I remember that from one of our last meetings?
Yes, we have Doug and Nate. And Doug is our head of engineering. Nate is actually heading up another division of Kuhn Tool that we just started in September 10th, I guess, was when we started it. So we're not really going with the name yet, but to be aired later. How about that?
Yeah.
Okay. And the service of this new venture, is that top secret too, or can you disclose it?
We're going to be doing EDM work, Sync or EDM
nice.
work.
Okay.
So it's just a new area for us.
Nice. Okay. Well, it sounds like a very dynamic company with the very low volume, high mix, job shop type work. That's a hard environment, right? Everything is new all the time. You're not having long runs. There's constant setups.
Cool. Yes. Yes. Keeping work scheduled and keeping the shop full or not too full is very difficult.
Yeah, it's a balancing act for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And so tell us maybe just a little bit more, just so people can get a feel for it. This gauging of, you said aerofoils or things that are related to aerospace, or engines. Exactly, what do the parts look like? What do they do in the application?
Well, general shape. If you're ever getting on an airplane and you look at the front of the engine as you're boarding, you can see the big fan blades in the front, which can be up, 3 feet long. That kind of represents the general shape, but they vary from, something 3 feet long to something maybe 3/4 of an inch long. So we build tooling for machining everything from the little ones to the great big ones, whether they're grinding or EDMing or milling or whatever they happen to be doing to them. We support the tooling for all of that. The other component are vanes, which are a little bit different, but kind of the same general shape. They all have that airfoil shape. Bonnie likes to reference it to the Nike swoosh that you see on the side of the shoe. That's kind of what, if you look at the end of an airfoil, that's what they look like. So, but the unique shape makes it difficult to hold on to for machining. So there's a demand for the tooling that, that we produce. So that's kind of been our business for the past 50 years.
Wow.
I think the interesting thing, Paul, is that our customers machine the blades and vanes. We just make the tooling, but we have to understand it completely in order to make their tooling properly for them. So Kenny has been doing it a lot longer than I have, but our sons have been here for 20 plus years. When Doug hears this, he'll probably correct me and say it's more like 25 or 30, but we'll let him go.
Long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time. But the other thing that we do is we make airflow tooling. So once the blades and vanes are made, they have to flow them in order to know if they have enough air that's going to go through. And so we've made tooling for that as well.
Yeah, we do a lot of that. That area has become much more critical as engines run more and more efficient. They run hotter and hotter. So the cooling area is much more critical that it gets to the right portions and right positions in the right amount inside the blades or vanes. So inspecting that at the end is important, that they know they get the right kind of flow. So we build a lot of tooling for that.
Very cool. Well, one of the early episodes of this podcast was with Ted, who talked about, from NTMA, Ted Toth, and talked about the importance of niching, and they are a very niche business in what they do. And clearly what you guys do is very niche. And I think that's important because, shops that are just general job shops, they sometimes have a hard time standing out because there's so many of them.
For us, it became a real decision point at one time in our history that the niche that we were in was very, very slow, and we were really struggling. And we had to decide, do we want to stay here? Or do we want to do other things? Because we had done plastic injection molding and we'd done die stamping and all those things over the years. And we finally just decided, no, we were going to stay with the tooling that we did in this. And it came back and it's been busy ever since. And, so it is a business decision that you have to make. Are you going to try to be really diversified? And there's a whole school of thought that that's the proper way to go. For us, it's work to try to stay in a niche because it fits what we do. And at a smaller size, it's really hard to be something for everybody. You just don't have enough volume to do all the different types of work. So we've decided to stay in this little bit of a niche. Yeah.
And Bonnie, to your point, sounds like for close to 50 years, this has kind of been the specialty. Some, decades long.
Yeah, I would say it's been at least 30 years since we've been doing this type of work.
Well, yeah. We were doing this back in the 60s and 70s. But
not as exclusively.
Right, we did. Yeah. We were doing more things back in the 60s, 70s. There was a lot more work for everybody. Let's put it that way. So it was easy to do. 1 week we were working on stamping dies, next we were working on a plastic injection mold, and the next week we were building tooling, or and all at the same time. So as companies got more specialized, it became harder to fulfill the demands of the customers when you were trying to do all those different areas at the same time. So we just decided this was the area that we enjoyed the most. So we kind of stuck with it.
And maybe it would be interesting to hear how your parents Ken decided to start the business, but being a business since the 60s, that's quite a legacy. And you guys have certainly seen some really macro trends of, and I think you're alluding to this, when things started going offshore and as a country, we decided not to prioritize the importance of manufacturing in our country. But you've survived through all those cycles.
So far, yes. It's the end. It's been easy, and we did get hit hard early on before people realized the offshoring was really what it was. One of our main customers, the work that they did that we supported exclusively was moved offshore. Was manufacturing of compressor blades, and in a matter of 5 years, this company that was the largest manufacturer of compressor blades for jet engines in the world went from that to non-existent in literally 5 years. So that was a real lean, tough time for us.
Kidding.
And didn't really totally understand what was going on because the whole concept of manufacturing moving offshore was something new. But, we have struggled and to make it through it. And I'm hoping, that now that, there's a move that people are beginning to understand how important manufacturing is to economies, that we're trying to move some manufacturing back onshore, and, it'll generally help the overall economy, because I think it's a big backbone of our economy. And, people just didn't understand how important manufacturing was to it. But I think they're beginning to figure it out. And one of the reasons we ended up staying with, the type of work that we do was it's tied to, a lot of it was tied to defense type, where that needed to stay domestic. So there was always a base manufacturing there that we could support. So we moved away from automotive again as a decision because of the volatility of it and the fact that so much of it was moving offshore. But we've seen a number of cases where a supplier or a customer was moving their stuff offshore, and we either lost that work or hoped it would come back. But we had at least 2 instances where a customer asked us to build tooling to help them move offshore, and I just said no.
Yeah.
So you've been a good customer of ours, but our job isn't to help you move offshore, so our guys don't have any work anymore.
Right.
You'll have to find somebody else. So,
but we faced a lot of challenges when that occurred, and it was, the tenacity of going through the Thomas Register, because we didn't have internet back then. And so Ken said to me, well, honey, I don't know what to do. And I said, well, what are these big books in here? Why don't I look in there? So I started looking for people that were making engines. There were sections in the Thomas Register that could show me companies that made compressor blades, compressor components. And I just started calling people, and one by one we'd get another customer. And from that, I would ask our new customer, hey, do you know anybody else that needs our help? And we've grown from, I don't know, probably 400 or 500,000 to 5 million in sales. And it's been incredibly humbling to make the growth that we've made. We've tried very, very hard to maintain employment. So when we moved up to our new facility, we had 11 employees, and we now have 24. We didn't want to hire people and let them go. We wanted to make sure when we were hiring, we could keep them. So our growth has been a very steady, substantial, even growth. It's not been, and we've had the opportunity to make it more, but we're in that process now.
Well, we tend to be very conservative that way because I think you'll find most of people in our position are aware, our employees are by far our most valuable asset.
Absolutely.
So that's the first thing that we try to protect. So all of our expansion or hiring has always been with the intent that people will be here till they retire.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I would love to get into, and we will in a moment, talk about culture and how you build a company that people want to live or want to work in until they retire. That's pretty fantastic. I think a lot of shops don't have that grade of retention, and so clearly you're doing something right if that's the case. But Bonnie, I want to come back to what you said about the Thomas register. We had those big green books on the shelf at our shop. And I remember leafing through them, and we started our shop in '97, so quite a ways after you guys did. But it was a good resource. But obviously pre-internet or the very earliest ages of the internet. But what I really want to tease out there is, as you guys were navigating through, some of your big customers going offshore or closing down entirely, you had the resourcefulness to sort of say, we're just going to, go find some more work, and literally going through the book and cold calling companies and telling them what you did and asking for work. So clearly that was successful, because you said you got several customers through that whole process. And I think that's important, because there are many shops out there that, that start up and they get some work. And, they're lucky that they get work from referrals, or, an engineer or a buyer moves companies and then they call them up again. But those things cycle, and not always are they proactive to go seek new customers if something dies off. They just kind of wait and kind of hope that new POs will start coming in again. So I appreciate your proactive approach. And are there any tidbits about the way you did it or what you said to really get the interest of people on the other end of that phone that enabled you to, grow those companies?
you have to be tenacious. You have to just not give up. No doesn't necessarily mean no. You have to keep going back and asking again and again, and circle back around. And people, they may not have something right now, but they might have something in 3 months from now. You just never know. And look for other avenues. But our biggest sales, as you mentioned earlier, have been by our customers taking us other places or recommending us to other people. But in the beginning, or not really the beginning, but in our beginning, Bonnie's reaching out in contact was a huge part, and making those cold calls and reaching out to them. Now it's different today because, with the internet, it's not phone calls so much as, I don't know, having it's virtual reality, virtual space that, people can get to your websites and all that kind of thing. But it's just reaching out and making those contacts.
I think that it's extremely important that if you're making cold calls, you have to understand it's a numbers game. I sold radio advertising before I came to work with Kuhn Tool. I've done so many different things. I've sold word processors and typewriters. I mean, it was a lot of fun growing up the way that I did. And I can tell you, I mean, it is a numbers game. So the faster you can move through those no's, the more yeses you're going to get. So that's the thing that I would probably say to anybody that is interested in growing their business or getting new customers is be tenacious. Just keep going after it, and if that person can't help you, ask, can somebody else help me? Somebody else at your facility. I can't tell you how many big companies that I called that I got a guy that was sitting at the phone center, and he would say to me, honey, do you think I have all day to talk to you? And I would, well, just help me as much as you can. And he would sit there for, I don't know. I had guys sitting on the phone with me 10, 15 minutes, and they were giving me names and phone numbers of engineers that I could contact within their company. So it's just be kind, and ask.
Such good advice. That's one of the best takeaways we've had in months. Yeah, thank you for that. That is really important because you're right about the numbers game. We all read this, the statistics that like someone that's going to buy something from you needs to hear your name or needs to have an interaction like 12 times or 20 times or something like that. It's so don't give up after the first couple tries. You kind of try to call them or email them and they don't call you back. That's where most people give up. You just got to keep persevering all the way until they finally, and do it respectfully and with kindness and all that.
It's a balance, of how many times you reach them before you become a pest. So you can't get too much that you pester them, but you want to reach out that they remember you're there too.
Yeah.
So it's nice that you have somebody as good at sales as this girl. So
absolutely huge asset. Well, let's talk about building a company where employees want to retire from. What do you guys do there? What makes it, a special place to work? Just tell me about the culture at Kuhn.
Well, for me, I try to take my coffee around, and those guys and girls look forward to conversation with me. There are times when I walk out in our shop and I see them take a rag and they'll throw something over the tool that they're making. And it's like, guys, I'm going to look. So it's just a friendship that we have. Our company offers our employees great benefits. And we do that not because we're trying to be better than other people, but because Ken and I both feel that our employees are what makes Kuhn Tool. So giving them the ability to survive in what's going on in this country, it just can only help strengthen who we are. And we've had a lot of our employees retire from here. We have one guy, I think he just told, we have a gentleman in here working with us this week, and he's been here for 37 years. And he's our oldest employee other than Ken, oldest length of time, not oldest as in age, but Kenny's been here for 53 years. And so our Scott is 37 years, and then we go down from there. But it's new employees too, getting the younger people involved and trying to have them understand what we do and how it's important to be kind to each other. That's my hope, is that you can come to work because we're here more hours awake than you are at home. So you might as well enjoy what you do. And that's what I tell them, make it fun. Come to work. We don't expect you to stand at your station the entire time and, push the buttons and make the parts. But it's important that they do that, but take the time to talk a little bit too, because it's getting to know your neighbor. And that's what they are. They're just, I think we have a bunch of friendly people in our shop.
Yeah, and if I had to sum it up in one word, it would be respect.
Yeah.
You respect them. And of course, they're here for a job, and it's, they know that they're supposed to do that. But you have to respect them as people, that, they have lives and they have interests and all those things in addition to that. And, your people aren't a tool. They're like I said, they're an asset. And you treat people the way you would want to be treated, and things work out. That's the only way I can put it.
Yeah, that sounds like the golden rule. And
it
continues to just
live by that, and you'll be fine.
Continue to be true. Yeah.
Amen.
That's wonderful. So retaining them is one thing, but finding new ones is an entirely different thing. What are you guys doing with workforce development, with tech colleges, or just finding employees in the first place?
When I've had the need for employees, I've usually gone on LinkedIn, Facebook, and I've just put out emails that have said, this is what I'm looking for. These are the benefits that I offer. It's all the things that the consultants will tell you not to do. That's what I do.
Yeah, we used to use, the ads in the paper and stuff, but that's become pretty ineffectual today. So, we try to use social media to attract people. We keep looking at trying to bring young people in to train, but it's, haven't had a whole lot of success at bringing the younger ones in right now. Our local feeder program, The people are going to other places before we get a chance to get them, so we need to work on that area a lot to try to attract the younger guys to come in. But we do, we work through the NTMA to have use training and stuff that way, but mostly it's, we attract people through our recommendation by our current employees is where most of our new people come from. So
if they like where they're working, they're going to recommend it. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a testament to your culture.
Paul, tell me about your trip to Italy.
I went there with the NTMA and we got to tour SMW Autoblok, 2 different facilities. Absolutely blew me away. World-class, enormous places. I can't even count how many machines there were, but so much automation. One of the most incredible takeaways for me was the breadth of what they made. I did not know they made so many work-holding products and automation products. And I loved watching a big chuck machine a little chuck. So they were machining chucks in huge lathes. I thought that was super fun.
Yeah, you introduced them to me after you came back, and they've been to my shop. And the ideas they have to like breathe new life into some of my machines and the tools and the jobs that we're running was just shocking.
And then one of the coolest things is we're bringing this new automated pallet delivery system, the Hennig workflow, to market. And guess what the interface is? It's SMW 0-point locators. It's really sweet.
We're getting ready to get some of those.
So how do people find SMW Autoblok to look through that massive catalog of products?
It's SMW Autoblok, BLOK.com.
Yeah, get rid of that C. SMW Autoblok, BLOK.com.
Let's talk a little bit about the equipment you have and how what you've decided to buy, brands, just the diversity. Sounds like you're quite diverse in the machines that you own, from the 5-axis waterjet to EDM and mills and lathes. So maybe just what's informed your strategy for buying equipment and technology over the years?
Our work is, was fairly complicated, and, again, being such small lots, you didn't set up a piece and run it for a day or two or a week. You set up 10, 15 parts during a day, every day. And many of the setups were complex for machining and or grinding. And then we did assembly work in addition to that. So it was very intensive for, again, using toolmakers. But it became evident as we moved into the end of the 1900s and moving into the 2000s that toolmakers were getting really hard to find. And it was hard to get people to come into the trade, let alone agree to go into an apprenticeship. So I did a lot of trying to think, how are we going to replace all these toolmakers that we're going to be losing? And we decided that technology was going to be our advantage to do that. And so we tried to, leverage using higher technology to simplify the setups and stuff and let the machines do it. So we moved to, first to CNC and then to
5-axis.
Moved into 5-axis very early to allow somebody that didn't have necessarily all of this skill set of, a journeyman toolmaker to be able to machine the parts that were as complex and sometimes more complex than what we had seen by using that. So that led us from, just manual knee mills to 3-axis CNCs to right to 5-axis CNCs.
When did you bring your first 5-axis on, Paul?
Probably 2009.
No, I was going to say 2005.
I didn't think it was that far back, but it was early on.
Early, yeah.
And I can tell you, people thought we were absolutely crazy because we make gauges and fixtures and we only make 1 or 2 of something. We would go to our NTMA meetings and we'd sit in our round tables and, here's this crazy girl talking about her 5-axis machining center. And the guys are going, but wait, you make tooling. How are you using that? And we just told them the benefits of it, I look back on it now. I know a lot of people that went into 5-axis doing what we do because of what we did. And you just share.
Yeah. The problem initially was that, the programming side wasn't up to, where it needed to be to do such a small lot size to do the programming. And it finally caught up and we went that way, but we still use a different philosophy where all of our guys do their own programming and their own setup and their own machining. So we have multiple seats of our programming software to allow them to do that, because to try to facilitate an individual programmer feeding that out to an operator, it's just, we haven't figured out how to make that work yet. So we still support all of those seats. But, we started out with, actually our first 5-axis was a DMG, and very good machine and had really good luck with it. And we, moved up to a bigger machine of that and bought another DMG. But since then we bought a number of Haas machines because some of the work doesn't require, maybe complex setups, doesn't require a level of precision that we get off of the DMGs. So the Haas has been a good support for us. Yeah. So we have a mix of, 5-axis and 3-axis machining centers, but we still use our manual knee mills too. Mm-hmm. And then, we have finished surface grinding that, the guys use to, hold very tight tolerances and then do their own assembly work too. So, it's funny, we got into the CNC really. The first thing we did was bought a wire EDM, because we had a particular component that we manufactured a lot of, not the same one, but very similar parts that were done all by hand. And it was very tedious and required a high level of skill and practice to do. And it was my job for a while. So I got to find a better way to do this. So I figured out how to create the shapes that we were trying to do, we were doing by hand, and translate that into a program that the wire EDM could do. And we implemented it. I remember my father wondering what I was thinking, but in a matter of 3 months, we paid for the machine. And
wow.
It was, he was sold at that point because he didn't know why I was buying computers or anything else. That we wondered where the chips came from. But the wire, we were able to produce these parts more accurately and much less time and consistently than what we could do by hand. So that was our first move. Since then, now we have 3 different wires and, 5 different 5-axis machines.
That's correct.
Yeah.
I'm counting in my head. Yes.
Yeah.
So, we decided for some reason we needed a waterjet. I looked at the same thing. I went, I don't want to just be able to cut a straight thing. We want to be able to cut angles and everything. So we bought 5-axis when we went to the waterjet. And it's been a wonderful addition to our facility. We at first didn't know that we were going to use it. We were buying it for a specific task or opportunity that didn't really pan out very well. And then we were stuck with the machine. We went, okay, what do we do? So we figured out how to make it. And now it is essential part of our day-to-day operations.
People say that it's a dirty machine, and it is. I mean, you have, all that
kind of stuff.
We have a room, and it's really good to have it back in its own area. And one of the things, Paul, that benefited us having the waterjet was during COVID, we would call to get material from companies. And they would say, well, it's going to take us longer because there's nobody here to cut the material for us. And we would say, well, we can buy the plates and we can cut them ourselves. So it really benefited us. That was probably one of the biggest benefits that we had, that, and we near net a lot of our things that we're machining. So instead of having chips, we have chunks. You get more money for your scrap chunks than you do chips. So it makes sense, right?
Yeah, so we use the waterjet a lot for near netting components so that we don't have to machine a ton of material off, and it cuts down on the machining and requirements, time on the machines and everything else, so that it's just part of the way that we've allowed it to help us.
And you must have found that the expense of running a machine like that, I've heard they're quite expensive just in the consumables and electricity and everything. But that more than offsets in the reduced tooling costs because you're near net shape, so you're not in the machining time on your finish cuts. That balances out to your favor, it sounds like.
Quite often there's cuts out of the base and that type of thing where if you don't, traditional ways, you put that on the machine and you machine all these pockets out. With a waterjet, we can waterjet that cut out in a lot less time. And like Bonnie said, then you have that chunk instead of those chips. So it's wear and tear and time on the machine under the spindle that we eliminate. And it's definitely paid off.
And I will say we had an old Flow is the brand that we went with, and we had an old one that was really giving us a lot of problems. So we purchased a different brand that we only stayed with for a year. And then we found a Flow person that brought us back in, and the Flow that we have now is so much better even than what our first one. The materials that we're using half as much as we were of the old garnet for the other machine. It's just really, it's a great asset for us. And he mentioned DMG and Haas for our 5-axis and our CNCs, but we have all Sodic wire EDMs, and that's the brand that we went with also for our RAM EDMs.
Yeah.
Got it. I didn't realize that the machine itself could affect the consumable garnet usage quite that much.
Absolutely.
We didn't either. I
Wow.
thought it was going with a better machine, and I was really surprised. We had a lot of difficulty. Like she said, it took twice as long to cut and used 4 times the amount of garnet, the consumable. And it wasn't as accurate. It just didn't perform nearly as well. I went back to it. We've been very happy with this new machine.
Yep.
Well, we won't mention the name of the other one, but we will mention the Flow. You love the Flows.
Yeah.
Awesome. Businesses like yours, you've probably heard me say this, it's the hardest business in the world and one of the most essential businesses. But when it's a close family held business like this over decades and generations, there's a lot of ups and downs, but there's a lot of special moments as well. I'm wondering if you might recount some of the most memorable times of owning this business that whether it just was a really heartfelt thing or related to an employee or helping a customer, or I don't know, just something that just been really meaningful owning this business.
I'll let him go first, and then I'll chime in at the end.
Well, yeah, all of those things, take place, and there's some great opportunities when a customer comes to you with a problem, and you're able to work out a solution, and it works out and improves their production and makes them more successful, and safer. All of those things, really, this is very rewarding. But having an employee that, has worked for years, and retires, that's probably the most touching part. Somebody that's, you've worked with, shoulder to shoulder for all these years, and they become part of your family, really. I mean, and, the fact that they've stayed this long and have done so much with you, and then, they're able to retire and, move on to the next stage of their life. It's a very rewarding and humbling and all of those things. But, the other side, you get a young employee that comes on, and you see them grow and, get married and have kids, and, and then their kids grow up and go to college and all of those things. It's, that part is very rewarding to deal with. So, but every day there's those little things, and I make it a conscious effort every single day to look for that one positive thing. And it's usually not very hard. I can find something, even on the worst days, I can find something that I go, man, that was really worthwhile what happened today. So I consciously look for those every day. Otherwise, this wouldn't be much fun anymore.
For sure. I love
For
that.
me, I would say I during COVID, I was in the hospital for 3.5 weeks, and
Oh
my son was also in the hospital. He was in a lot worse shape than I was, but we both survived. And the day that Kenny came to pick me up from the hospital, I was still toting my oxygen tank. And he says, "Okay, honey, do you need anything at the store before I take you home?" And I said, "No, I don't need anything at the store, but you're taking me to the shop."
I said, "No, I'm not."
Well, he brought me to the shop, and I walked in with pulling my oxygen tank. And I looked terrible because I had lost weight. I'd lost hair. It was, COVID was a very real thing. And it had affected me. And I had to come here because anybody that knows me, and Paul, I think you can attest to this, I love people and I love my family. It was important to me to come here to give everybody hugs and let them know that, that I'm back, I'm okay, because I know that they were worried about me. And I think that's probably one of my most touching times, was walking in that door and having them come over, and they just stood there. They didn't know whether to hug me because they were afraid they were going to hurt me. And I'm going, "Guys, I'm okay."
Yeah.
So it's a family. I mean, he talks about retirement, right? So we had a guy that left us to become a minister. 30 years goes by. 30 years. He was a minister. And he came back to Kenny and I, and he says, "Can I end where I started?"
Mm.
And we went, "What?" He says, "Well, I don't want to be a minister anymore." He says, "I would like to be a toolmaker again. I'd like to finish at your company. That's where I started working, and that's where I'd like to end it." And he still ministers once in a while at his church here, but he works full time for us. And now his son is working for us as well. So there are so many rewarding things. I mean, we have another father and son here. Our foreman and his son both work here. And then Kenny and I have our 2 sons here. So it's a family affair. It's awesome.
Thank you for sharing that, Bonnie. That was a very special story. Yes, and I know from all the NTMA meetings how much you love people, how many hugs you give, just how warm and friendly you are. So let's see, let's pivot a little bit and talk about NTMA, right? You and maybe more broadly the importance of peer groups and learning from each other and supporting each other. Because you are the first female chairwoman of the NTMA in the history of the NTMA, I will announce.
Yes.
That's awesome, amazing. Yeah, just talk about your experience there, what you've gotten from it, why you would encourage other companies to join associations like that.
It has absolutely been one of my biggest learning experiences that I've ever had. Neither Kenny or have had, we don't have a college degree. Everything that we've learned from doing. And, I think we're doing pretty well. I look at where we are with our business and where our kids will be when we leave compared to where we were. I love Ken's mom and dad and what they gave us, what they did for us truly benefited us. It's a little bit different for the boys. It'll be a little bit better place for them, I think. And what I've found with NTMA is going to the conferences has been so valuable. Talking to others that are going through the same experiences that you're going through. I mean, Kenny and I, for so many years, it's like, wow, geez, how do we do this? You don't need to think about it now. You can just pick up the phone and call somebody or email somebody, text somebody, wait until the next conference and talk to them. But there are so many opportunities through NTMA. We have our NTMA Connect where you can go online and just put it out there. You have a question, ask it. There's going to be somebody that has already gone through it or has done it and can help make your life easier. So a group, peer groups are so important. I know I'm a member of the Women in Manufacturing as well, but I've never attended anything. I still get their emails. I look at that. But NTMA, for me, being on the executive team for the last 6 years has been so rewarding. Being with a bunch of guys that have respected me enough to want me to be the chairperson, really, it just warms my heart. And I think they all know that I have done my best to try to make sure that people knew about NTMA, to make sure that they know what's important. And I just can't stress enough the meetings that we attend. Kenny and I have been able to go to, I think, 9 chapters in a year, and we've visited so many companies by doing that. And every chapter has been so welcoming, and every business that have opened their doors have opened their hearts as well. We're still in touch with a lot of them, and I'm looking forward to being able to get back to Kuhn Tool, but I have totally enjoyed this year being the chairman for NTMA.
Yeah. I mean, I've fallen in love with the organization. We think we joined early before COVID, I think, just maybe 2018 or 19. And hearing the stories of just how much it means to people to be able to have a peer to ask a question about, or to even just, have a shoulder to cry on, or just, someone that's been there, done the same kinds of things. Cause it kind of can be like on an island, as the business owner, sometimes if you don't have that peer group that can relate and really understand what you're going through, because it's so different than someone that just works at a company.
Well, the other thing that has helped us, Paul, is when we've gone to our meetings, we've gone to our conferences, we've had people like you and other great sponsors that have been there that could help answer questions about how do we do this? What materials do we use? It's just been so valuable. I mean, from machine dealers to software people to just about everything. It's just been really awesome to have a group of people like that working with us.
Yeah, I mean, it's knowledge base. We use it for everything from, cutting tools to coolants to all those things to use that are practical. But, as you already stated that, in a small business, you're busy all the time, and you tend to get isolated in your own little world all the time. When you go to the conferences and such, or even if you go to your local chapter meetings, it can help to some extent, but you get outside of your own little world and, find out, other people are having the same issues. And, I'm thinking of doing this. Somebody else has already tried it, and they can give you pointers. They can give you help. They can be, like you said, a shoulder to cry on. Sometimes, hopefully that doesn't happen too much, but it's nice to have somebody there to help you when that problem, those problems come around. So there's two sides of it. There's a very practical side, but there's also that support side and, the friends that you make that are there. And the organization offers some great training possibilities for us. It was great training for us, just, talking to these people, but for your employees and such, there are some wonderful training programs that are out there that, the cohorts that they have and the emerging leaders and the NTMAU that you can use for training your employees and all that stuff. We take advantage of all of those things. So all of that stuff has been a great benefit to us for ourselves personally, professionally, and for the business itself. Mm-hmm. So, Yeah, I don't want to be too much of a commercial, but
Yeah. Well, I was just going to lean into that. If you're out there listening and you're not a part of NTMA or PMPA or whatever organization would make sense for your type of shop, do reach out, do learn about it. The dues are not expensive. It's important to get out of your bubble. It's important to build connections, and the return, if you invest in it, is so massive. So
Absolutely.
you're getting raw data. You're not getting it from people that have tried it and done it and, can understand it. That one-to-one personal contact is a bigger advantage than just finding the stuff on the internet.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Don't just join and get the newsletter. Go to the meetings,
Right.
invest in
Go to the
people.
meetings.
Yeah.
Go to the
Go
shop
show up,
tours.
be part of it. Do the stuff.
So, sort of last little theme question here. Obviously, to have a business that's spanned close to 6 decades or 6 decades now, you're obviously doing a lot of things right. What would you say if you had to summarize some of the most important strategic best moves you've made, or decisions you've made over those years to be such an enduring business? What would you put on that short list?
You have to be flexible. As a small business, you really have to be flexible. You have to understand what you're doing today might not be what you're doing tomorrow.
Right.
It changes. You have to change with what the current demand is. And our underlying motto, has always been make it right. Find out what your customer needs and then make it for them and make it right for them. It's not always, any business has to make money to survive, but I've never run this and, we've never looked at it to try and make money. We run the business to try and provide a great place to work and to provide the best solutions for our customers, no matter what that might be. And sometimes they may not know exactly what it might be. So sometimes we have to teach them that, but, we just try to do the best we can do every day. And, it's the best way that I could put it.
Yeah.
I will elaborate a little bit. We did, leveraging technology, and is always important. Stay abreast of what the new things are, and you need to grasp them because other people are going to go by you if you don't. The current one is AI, and everybody's, oh my God, it's the best thing or it's the worst thing. It's just another tool.
Yep.
Embrace it, use it, put it to work. Just like we did when computers came out, and the internet came out. Everybody thought, oh my God, this is a terrible thing, and now we can't live without it. So, iPhones, the smartphones, all those things, all that technology. Take it and put it to work. Find a way to use it. That's how you'll be successful.
But we have some great customers that are good friends that have helped us along the way, and we've helped them as well.
Yeah.
Well, great way to sum it up. I appreciate the time to get on here and talk with you. You guys are just so sweet. And seeing you always come to the NTMA meetings and you're just there as a couple running this business. It's,
you get one, you get both.
You get one, you get both. So absolutely love it. If people want to reach out and learn more about Kuhn Tool and possibly working with you or more about your business or working there, where would you direct them to learn more?
They can always go to our website, which is kuhntool.com. That's KUHNTOOL.com. You can email me, Bonnie at kuhntool.com or Ken at kuhntool.com. We're really difficult people. We try to keep it simple. We also are on LinkedIn. I think if you look it up, I'm not a technical person, so I really don't know what my LinkedIn is, but I'm there. And so is he. Same way with Facebook. Our company is there. I don't update my website as often as I should, but maybe somebody will hear me out there and give me a call and offer that assistance.
Okay. Very good. Well, thank you both for being on the show. I really enjoyed the conversation, and just congratulations on being able to, build something so enduring with your best friend, your partner over all these years. It's just a great situation.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Hey, Paul, next year's 2026. Guess what happens?
That means it's an even year, which means IMTS is happening.
I'm so excited. And I assume Pro Shop will be there exhibiting again, as always.
Yeah, it'll be our 5th time, I think.
Wow.
Would have been 6 if COVID hadn't happened. But yeah, even after being there that many years, there's a lot to understand about that show. It is a massive event, massive execution to exhibit.
Well, and a big investment, right? It's, gosh, your time, your money.
It is a big investment. Yeah, it's one of our biggest marketing investments for sure.
Well, I'm looking forward to in January, you and Nick and I are going to be at the IMTS Exhibitor Workshop, where exhibitors can come and learn like how to get their most out of IMTS.
Yeah, the workshop is fantastic. There's a bunch of different benefits from it. One, you can connect with all the vendors for your furniture, for your logistics, getting all your stuff in and out of the show, electrical, everything. But this year, they're also doing an executive session or series. So really focused on getting the most out of the conference. How are you going to go in with a marketing plan, really execute it, and get your maximum ROI if you're exhibiting at the show?
Well, it's a major commitment to go to the show. I mean, I go as an attendee, but seeing all the work that goes into it, if I was exhibiting, I would definitely want to maximize my experience there and get the most out of it. And the workshop I know is going to be interactive, where they really work through things. Like you said, you can place the orders, all that type of stuff. And, that's going to bring a bunch of value to exhibitors.
Yeah, absolutely. The difference between coming with a plan and executing on that, it's a big difference, as opposed to just showing up, throwing up your booth and hoping for the best. So yeah, it's definitely advisable. So exhibitors that want to make more of it, whether they're first time exhibitor or even if they've done it many times, but they really want to maximize their ROI this time, they should definitely show up at this thing. And what are the dates again?
Yeah, so it's January 27th through 29th at the McCormick Place. So you kind of get familiar with where your booth's going to be and all that type of stuff. To find out more, people should just go to amtonline.org/events and get signed up, and we'll see you there in January.
Sounds good, Mike.